Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Neighborhood News Network, the home of citizen journalism. I am Andy Dabala, and I'm with the best citizen journalist on the planet, and himself, none other than George Webb. George Webb, how you doing today?
Good. Andy, I can't wait to talk about Alfred the Great. Um, the period of time in Ukrainian history between 1620 and 1625. I want to spend about an hour on that today, if that's okay with you. And then I'll get to 1626 a little bit later in the second hour. So I think that's going to keep everybody gripped, with interest, because Alfred the Great, oh man, he was pretty great.
As George Webb always likes to say, get to the juice. Let's get to the juice, and then we can ramble on about Russian history after we get to the juice. And that's kind of what was going on during the Tucker Carlson Vladimir Putin interview.
And Andy, here's all I would say is, like, I would do the visuals. I'd say, well, it seems to me there's four key pipelines that are so critical to your economy. Right, you've got the Nord Stream. You had the one going through the pipeline going through Poland, and that's been shut down. The Nord Stream's been destroyed. Now we've had the two in Ukraine, and those have been cut. So the four lifelines of your revenue is being cut. And the CIA and the Atlantic Council have pursued a strategy of a southern route to cut you off from money. What do you think about that? And do you think that's what caused the war? Right? Mm-hmm. You don't ask an open-ended question, and we didn't get to a pipeline until 1 hour 30 minutes. If you finally asked a Nord Stream question in about 1 hour and 45 minutes, we didn't get to a pipeline question. The reason for the whole war, right? All I'm saying is, get to the juice of why the war is caused and get end it in the first 30 seconds, and then you'll have time to talk about Alfred the Great. I'm sure there's a lot of Alfred the Great fans out there.
It is. I did have a couple of things that they could have touched on, like you're getting into the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, how long it took to get to this in general, and how he thinks it was the U.S. that did it. But was Igor Kolomoisky mentioned at all, and how he's infiltrated the U.S.? He's even has Trump's lawyer representing him. Did they get into the Ukrainians at the January 6th insurrection at all? It's like, how about mention that, and how Ukrainians are kind of trying to overthrow our capital? Ukrainian biolabs, how many times was this mentioned? The fact that we have Russian scientists working in those U.S. and Ukrainian biolabs and working on SARS coronavirus and the pandemic. They could have brought this up. There's just a bunch of topics that they didn't touch at all, and they were talking about Peter the Great a little bit too much at the beginning of this interview.
And I love history as much as anybody. And I say it like this: Catherine the Great liked the Black Sea. Let's just be honest, okay? And because it was warm ocean, right? And so she made Odessa No Kolomoisky. She made that new Russia. And so ever since then, Russians, a good faction of Russians, that's new Russia. Now, okay, and then move from Catherine the Great, okay? Forget about all this Alfred the Great, and then he went through the father of Alfred the Great, and then the grandfather, and the grandson, and then all the, as a matter of fact, I try to go World War II to now. I really don't want to ever go back as far as Catherine the Great, but if somebody really puts a gun to my head and says, I'm here to learn about, ancient Ukrainian history, I'm like, hey, well, there's Catherine the Great. Yeah. Dave's got a great comment here. If you're going to talk about right, let's talk about Christopher Steele doing the Cossack dance at his first wife, and how his first wife died of poisoning after seemingly being used as an operative, and then all of a sudden the Cossack dance ended for her. And then he gets married in the little tavern, the Tavern Inn in Washington, D.C. a second time, and that's where he drops the Trump dossier. At least let's bring in a little contact. We didn't get that at all. And that was the first hour. So I sometimes think, did they drag us through this thing with this history because they're going to announce a peace deal, and they've got a peace deal in their back pocket. They're going to try to push Hunter Tucker out as the guy who, this interview was the thing that unlocked the deadlock, and now we've got peace. I think maybe that's going on there.
Mm-hmm. As Tucker's going to be, this interview is going to be used as a linchpin for freedom talks. They did bring that up, and how Putin wanted to kind of stop things a couple months ago, but the U.S. kind of put an end to that. But there's a bunch of topics that were going to be brought up, but there's a lot of discussion in our little inner neighborhood news group chats about Tucker's dad being maybe a CIA agent or something like that. Is that true? Do you know this?
His dad ran Voice of America, and Voice of America is the Wurlitzer. The Voice of America is the big media spinner of narratives. Sometimes they're true, sometimes they're not. But that's Voice of America. When I was trying to find the Rodney, who was living in Annapolis, there you go. When I was to find him, and he's the guy who got all the Russian missiles, right? Mm-hmm. South Africa gets all the 20,000 Russian missiles, and Rodney Fisk, and then they somehow go missing in Piketon, right? I think it's Mark Rich. Anyway, but the person who was living in the house of Rodney Fisk, since he supposedly died, was the gal who was the Voice of America person for Afghanistan. So Voice of America in charge of putting all these props and sceneries and sets now, because maybe that guy didn't die, and the reason why he said he did is so that I would stop him for the missiles that we were supposed to get from Russia. So, none of this came up. Megatons to megawatts didn't come up. The bio weapons and bio agents coming to the United States, going to the Ukrainian labs after World War II. If you're going to go into
mention in there, you could have brought up.
Ken Albeck wasn't mentioned. So it's just like, if Alfred the Great is mentioning, Ken Albeck is worth mentioning. Alfred the Great's little scepter that he used to conk people with. They used to have a scepter that had some heft to it, so that they could, if somebody attacked him in court, you could always hit him with the scepter. Our chances of being killed by Alfred the Great's scepter are very slim. It's much more likely a Ken Albeck retooled bioagent will put us out. Here we go.
Yeah,
what did Aaron say there?
He was just saying Smith Modernization authorized 2 entities to do propaganda: State Department and Broadcasting Board of Governors. And he's saying the Broadcasting Board of Governors runs the Voice of America entities around the world. So that's
Carter Page worked for Broadcasting Board of Governors. And the thing about BBG is they're the ones who set out the 4 o'clock in the morning sheet that says, here's what we need to talk about today. Here's the talking points. So today I already know what the talking parts are from Tucker, because nobody bothered before to go through the real history of all the Russian history in Ukraine, is why we had the war. If only we had better history teachers. Tucker took the time to go through the history, and that unlocked the deadlock, and now the war will be over. And Voice of America called this one. They did. It had nothing to do with the pipelines. Nothing to do with bioweapons, nothing to do with the hacking tools to be trailbearers, none of the DNC stuff. It's real Russian history. If we'd only learned our Russian history when we were little kids, we wouldn't have got America into this war.
It was quite the boring. I wonder if Tucker was sitting there in the beginning like, I don't really want to get into all this. It's like, but you don't want to upset Putin and be like, hey, let's move on. No one really cares about this. So he's just being polite and doing it. But I guess, it was a little bit, especially with the Russian translation going on. It was a little rough at times, but
I thought somebody asked about Prigozhin, Putin's chef and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that gripped America: Putin chef and Putin invading in Russian, interfering in American elections. He bought those $56. Remember, it was $56 for the book ads in Wisconsin. All the cheese ads. It was for some kind of cheese, and they all flipped the vote, and that's what won Trump, Wisconsin. And then there was some similar thing in supposedly that happened in. Now he was the leader of the Wagner Group as well, so he's a fairly important guy in the scheme of things. He didn't ask about that. He didn't ask about Christopher Steele. He didn't ask about the poisonings. He didn't ask about any of that.
Was he the one that? Oh yeah, that he was the one that launched that rebellion in the beginning or in the middle of the war, where he was going to march on the Capitol and overtake Putin and stuff. But yeah, they didn't get it. They could have got into Sergei Skripal, some of the Russian scientists being poisoned at the lab there, the Portendown lab in England and stuff. There's a lot of topics they could have covered that they
got into Dostoevsky. I thought, oh my gosh, it's the alligator short story. He's going to tell the alligator short story. Like there's some pretty impenetrable Russian artists. Okay. I mean, you get into some of the, Pasternak wrote some of the lighter stuff with Dr. Zhivago, but I mean, you get into the, some of the War of 1812 type novels. It's a million characters and so forth. But he brings up Dostoevsky, the most impenetrable of all, the one that, if you want to get your Russian PhD literature degree, you got to get through Dostoevsky. And here's Putin holding court on Dostoevsky. I'm like, missiles flying as we're talking, guys. Let's, step it up here. So it was very comical. And I don't know if it had to be almost intentional, Andy, because they sidetracked so much for so much time. It had to be almost planned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't watch it live. I kind of did what I watched listened to your little summation about it this morning on Twitter Spaces, and then I watched little bits and pieces of it. It's like, all right, just kind of cut through the beginning and then get to the end. That's what I did, and it does seem like a little intentional practice they were doing, because it was like you would be falling asleep at the first hour if you were watching it live, I feel like.
Oh yeah, somebody in the chat's mentioning Tolstoy, and I alluded to War and Peace. The Russians are known for their thick novels, right? With hundreds of thousands of characters sometimes. But Dostoevsky, it was Dostoevsky. He did mention, if you remember, Dostoevsky is a little kid, right? Snowbound Russia, right? Somebody brought an alligator from the tropics, and no one had ever seen an alligator in Moscow before. So they thought it was a space creature. They did, there hadn't been any book or whatever to describe it until that time. So at that time, like let's say 1812, 1850, Dostoevsky is big news, really big news. And I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor of really punching it out there for Dostoevsky. You know what I mean? If he wrote something new, but it found, and there's no reason this had to be on 5 o'clock, the same time making his announcement in this hotel for winning the Nevada caucus. Because Alfred the Great's still going to be dead on Saturday. They could have announced it on Saturday. Dostoevsky's still going to be dead. Tolstoy will still be dead. All these people will still be dead. There's nothing that's in Russian history is going to change that much. There's no reason why this needed completely coincided with Trump's victory speech.
Yeah, and that's and we saw CNN. I saw little clips of Trump's victory speech where CNN cut him off, and the anchors were laughing in the background.
We should play that because nobody saw it, because everybody was watching this thing. And if Putin would have had an alligator, that might have spiced things up a little bit. When he talked about Dostoevsky, he didn't have no damn alligator. You may remember Tywin and I, when we went down with Neighbor News, we went down there with the alligators. The alligators did we see trip. a lot, for a whole hell of a lot of alligators on that trip, right? At least we had a damn alligator. Putin didn't have the alligator.
All right, I'm looking for the Trump Nevada victory speech, but I'll find that in a second. Another thing I wanted to talk about was Joe Biden and his memory kind of fading, and I guess it's officially fading in the eyes of the public now that the special counsel reviewed him. Obviously, he disputed the claims. Is there any is anything going to come out of this? Is he going to drop out of the race? Is Kamala Harris going to take over before the end of his actual presidential run? What's the deal? What's the George Webb spin on?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is what they call a wrist slap. The DNC needs to give you the impression there's a even standard. There's not a double standard, right? So if classified information on this hand, classified information on that hand. If you mishandle classified information over here, Biden, we're going to give you a little wrist tap. That hurt too much. I'm sorry if we hit you too hard. And then up over here, wham! They're going to just nail him so bad. This to me tells me the metadata here is get ready for Trump and the classified documents case down there in Florida. Here we go. Here we go.
Maybe he was in charge of hiring the DNC fake pipe bomber and the Proud Boys group. Maybe Biden was in charge, and that's why they're trying to put this out there now. They're like, Joe, do you remember kind of leading this group? I don't know anything that's going. I don't remember anything that's going on.
Well, I think Deep Blackberry. I mean, he probably done something so he can't remember or finger Deep Blackberry for the pipe bombs. But right now, it had to be somebody who had knowledge of the DNC and knew that was connected to the Capitol Police, and they had to get somebody from Capitol over, and the firms runs the Capitol Police. They had to get somebody over there in a Capitol Police or Explorer, right? Waiting for that, hey, now we can say that we found the bomb. Very few people in the Senate Sergeant of Arms office. We have one guy who knows both servers are there, and he told us 7 years ago. So Deep Blackberry has got to be one of the top suspects for planning the bomb now, and he knows that that's going to trigger continuity of government. He's also the guy who knows that the continuity of government software, the BlackBerry ad hoc, is on that server. So if they wanted to go, usually what happens, sometimes you only need to declare continuity of government for an hour. But during that,
I was going to ask you about that. Like, in order for them to claim that it was an insurrection, Trump couldn't have been in power. Like, there had to be a continuity of government at some point. If he's leading a charge against who's in power, that's what like an actual insurrection is. You're going against the people in power. He couldn't have been in power himself anymore at that time, which he still was.
Why I say this happened at 107 with the Secretary, the Senate Sergeant of Arms, is you can go through, delete a whole bunch of files. Once you're in continuity of government, you can delete a whole bunch of files. You can delete all the Libya files, the Syria files. This stuff can be deleted while Trump's talking, right? The only thing you have to do is some kind of outward demonstration where you crash the gates. There's Joe Big and some of the orange hats. This
is $1 million photo, by the way, George Webb. Our troll from yesterday's show. they owe us $1 million. He said, show us a picture of Joe Biggs forming with orange hats at the gates. And it's like, here you go.
Well, there was a lot more orange hats that came in and augmented these guys. These are the American guys that they filmed in the morning. But there was a whole bunch of, this is to try to associate him with just these guys. You see some of them have the big thing here. But there's a whole bunch of additional guys that came in. And this is why I say it was orchestrated by DNC. Because you have to knock a couple of gates over, and then somebody from the Capitol has to then send a message over to the DNC, and the DNC has to say, okay, now we need to find the bomb. Okay, so that when the messages are going out, you're not seeing this. you're not everywhere at once. You're just seeing the feed of the messages. You see the feed. They went over gate 1. See a feed. They went over gate 2. They're at gate 3. Pipe bomb discovered at DNC. Now you're thinking, oh, there's pipe bombs everywhere, putting pipe bombs everywhere, right? Now you go, they're threatening the Capitol, continuity government. As soon as you initiate the continuity of government, now you have your messaging server go out there and delete everything of the last 20 years. It's going all the way back to anthrax with the server. Now when the server and everything's deleted, you need to get that server out of there, right? How do you get the server out of there? Well, you got to have somebody pick it up and take it out. And that's why I'm saying where the orange hats come in is somebody got to remove that server. And there has to usually be a diversion. Sam Babbitt is that diversion. So by the time Trump gained his phone, just after Ashley Babbitt shot at 244 is when I think Trump regained his presidency, because then the server is basically unplugged. The last thing you would do after you do the delete operation is unplug the server, and the records were destroyed. From the Secret Service, from all the operation, the records were destroyed. So I'm not speculating here. So two things can be true at once. A lot of people are saying, well, pictures of Joe Biggs and the orange hats before you said you saw other guys put their hats on. Yes, that's quite possible. They want you to focus on this group of American guys, right? But I'm saying that when they brought the Ukrainians in, I saw it with my own eyes, and I said it live. Here they all are. These rough customers, these orange hats. They formed right over here on the grassy knoll. They all put their hats on at once. They came right here. So it's not something. This is all happening with fog of war, right? Right. I wouldn't know. Okay, I'm going to plan something, and then because I saw orange hats over here, I'm going to plan this mystery for this ghost group. Not my own two eyes, right in front of me over there at the grassy knoll. That's the idea. Is implant the idea on everybody that you're going to see orange hats tomorrow, right? You're going to see orange hats that are not going to be red hats, okay? And now you can mix in with the orange hats. And the orange hats were led by Ali Alexander, and Peter was on the phone with Ali Alexander on a conference call, and they were talking about going to all these places to organize stop the after the day after the election. I was there. Peter picked me up at the airport. I said, how could a Cuban black guy be leading a group of white supremacists? That was the Proud Boy who got arrested for the thing, because they thought about it too. This is not going to wash. We got a black Cuban who's going to be going over the gates. Let's have him get arrested on a weapons charge, and then we'll have Joe Biggs, a white guy who used to be an InfoWars host. He'll be the guy who goes over the gates. That's good. Let's go with that. And that's what happened. They pulled Tario out of that role the week before, and then they ran Biggs through. But I don't want Joe Biggs going. I'm at America's caucus. So here's Ashley Babbitt. I'm at America's caucus. There's two parts of a caucus. One is when you vote.
This is a laptop thief. Not
yeah. Go ahead. What's her name again? Andy? Riley?
Yeah, Wiley.
Wiley or Riley?
Let me look it up.
This is a cover story.
Riley Williams.
Riley Williams. This is cover story too, because she goes and gets Nancy Pelosi's laptop. That's a cover story too. That's not the laptop I'm talking about. That's the House Sergeant of Arms. This is the Senate Sergeant of Arms I'm talking about. So you can see that they're putting all this effort into all these cover stories about stealing laptops and how it's not orange hats. That tells you it's orange hats. Why would we go in and steal Nancy Pelosi's laptop? Why? Just because they were just, wanted to steal something, right? And why would the press push the story? Okay. And why would the press and InfoWars and everybody's attacking me? Because I'm saying I saw the orange hats to form up and merge in with the Proud Boys to go in and get the servers. The next day I showed with Ann Vandersteel, the guys going out with the servers underneath their thing. Again, all this, right, is happening in Nancy Pelosi's office. That's in the House. That's in the House.
That's like the magician holding up this is the other hand while his hand's in the back stealing the servers out of the hat.
The person saying Summer with the photo of the 12 laptops under the code, another fake story from George Webb. it's not my picture. It's on the front cover of that one they stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was not my story. It was Ann Vandersteel's story along with Mel K. So, you know, the trolls are always going to try to create this kind of, you know, undermining and questioning and so forth. But they just cited one where it's not my story. It was Ann Vandersteel's story. And that was Mel K. The next day.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring up
that guy was trying to talk about the Ukrainians and the orange hats being together. I do actually have a little bit of a theory, if you'll let me.
Sure. Sorry, I'm stepping on you. I'm not letting you talk. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. No, this is kind of, it goes into what the person's talking about. I'm pulling up that picture that I used for the cover of the show. You know, the $1 million picture here. So if you look closely, obviously you see all the orange hats. Supposedly they wore, I saw someone posted on Twitter that they wore the orange hats as a form of as a show of solidarity with it, that Enrique Tarrio got arrested. So a bunch of the Proud Boys members wore orange hats instead of their normal black and yellow gear. But obviously you can see all these guys geared up head to toe right here in military gear. They're kind of ready.
That was taken, I believe that was taken in the morning, or it'd be interesting to see exactly when it was taken.
Yeah, this wasn't during the storm, but I'm trying to, I can't get it to like zoom in anymore. But if you look at the picture, someone mentioned earlier, I actually did a little research on this. There's a bunch of people in the background, and they're making this like OK symbol, where they're like kind of Steph Curry shoots a 3-point shot and he holds up the 3 or like whatever this. I thought it was like some Illuminati symbol or something, but I looked it up and it's actually a racist symbol. It's like a white power. It's called the OK hand signal, and it's a white power signal. George is holding up that one.
Either he's pregnant. Okay, you can do the hand signal, but I think that's just to, you know, feed narrative that these were all white. Go ahead, give me full screen, Andy.
I got one. I got the. Let me finish real quick.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
So this is the Ukrainians. Who's the most who uses a hand symbol is Nazis. And if there's some Azov battalion members over here and they're working with the orange hats, the Proud Boys orange hats, you know, that's a big photo op beforehand. We're gonna gather at the Capitol like 6 hours before the insurrection, the Ukrainian and the Proud Boys, and we're going to show that we're about to take over this thing. We're all happy right now. And you saw the OK hand signals in the background, and here's the Azov battalion right here. And there's a couple guys doing the Nazi salutes, and there's a couple guys right in front doing the OK hand signal. Now I'm going to go back to that picture just to show you guys that there's OK hand signal being done right in the background, right behind the orange hats. So I ask you, George Webb, is this the Ukrainians behind the Proud Boys at the Capitol on January 6th? Is this actual like visual proof that they were there for the insurrection?
I mean, if you go to my Substack, it shows Dobrynin there with Jake Angeli, and it shows his picture in his Ukrainian uniform. So, I mean, I'm not guessing here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need a hand signal. I mean, if you go to the J6 thing where the guy's running away with the orange hat, he's running to a server, it shows, you know, there's no question that it's Brennan, you know. So it's kind of like we don't need circumstantial evidence. We have direct evidence. We got the guy's picture. He's there on camera. Now, how does the troll explain to Brennan, right, who is a war criminal in Ukraine? He's there. Somebody brought him, right? Now, to me, the guys who were at the DNC and then using the Azov brigade to flip countries, to fly mercenaries in and flip countries and then make a whole bunch of money off of flipping countries. It seems like that's how they might get into the country and be there on Capitol Hill that day. It seems like they would want to remove their servers. So we have Brennan on, and we said it, and we have the Ukrainians yelling faster, 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 breaking the windows that Joe's ended up going through. So did Joe Biggs all of a sudden take Dostoevsky course and learn Ukrainian or learn Russian overnight? Is that really what this troll wants us all to believe, that all of those Proud Boys, in their spare time, all took Russian courses and all learned Ukrainian or all learned Russian? It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't understand why you would push this, because when you try to do the undermining and you push this, then the best evidence comes forward, and then everybody goes, oh, the troll is just trying to undermine. And then they think, how much money have they spent with the millionaires all over the England and New Zealand and this guy in San Diego, the billionaire? How much money have they spent trying to undermine, right, over the last 8 years? And it's all come true. All of it's come true. Everything is coming down the pike true, right? How do you explain that? Oh, there was no deep blackberry. Oops, there's deep blackberry. Oh, there was no Senate Sergeant of Arms sticker. Oh, there's Senate Sergeant of Arms sticker. Oh, there was, it wasn't a covert server. Oh, yes, it was a covert server. Over and over again, there's just been an endless series of undermining, and it always turns out to be exactly what I said. Always. And I just don't understand how this could continue to go on unless it's funded. Who has that kind of time, right? Unless it's funded. And if it's being funded, then really are scared. That's all I got to say, is to put this much money into it over this much time, is they're really scared.
I definitely agree with you, and it kind of just leans more towards like that's why Tucker Carlson, when you're interviewing Putin, dig into Kolomoisky and dig into some of these billionaires who are funding these overthrow projects around the globe, and let's really get into it instead of talking about Arthur the Great or whoever Abner the Great, whoever it was.
Putin mentioned Zelensky's father, but he didn't mention Zelensky's father is the business partner of Kolomoisky. He mentioned Zelensky's father was a fighter against Nazis in World War II, but he didn't mention that he's in business with Kolomoisky and the largest oil and gas company, and also the largest mining company in the area we're talking about, where the war is. The war is over the pipelines and the mineral wealth of the Donbass. Tucker mentioned cobalt one time. He didn't mention titanium one time. He didn't mention oil and gas reserves in the Donbass. He didn't mention oil and gas reserves in the Black Sea, not once. Instead, we got this history lesson, and now you got these defenders coming on to today saying, well, we all needed to know that about history. You can watch Lee's and Ukraine on Fire, right, and get a much more updated version of the Maidan, if you needed a reminder of the Maidan, and plus Putin confirmed a lot of the things we've been saying. Putin confirmed what we've been saying about the pipeline. Putin confirmed what we about the CIA and the overthrow during the Maidan. He confirmed all the things the channel has said in terms of Ukraine, as far as Ukraine history. So yes, I mean, but he's the leader. He's been the leader for 22 years. He who had a chance to pull the veil back on all of these operations, and he did not do that. And Tucker didn't help. Tucker took him in, talked to him about the origins of the Orthodox religion.
It's like there's two history nerds, just like it's like a cigar and a chat, and it's just like, no. Let's save this for another time, guys.
It was unbelievable. So. What's the next topic, Andy? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I like the AOK sign though. That was good. That was some juice there.
Yeah, that was just. Yeah, I was just trying to say that there's. I know we had evidence of Sergei Dobrynin being at the at the insurrection, but I was like, if there's a whole, there's just like 30 of them. I was like, that if there's a whole Azov battalion there, I know we got the voices going in. It's like that picture right there. It's just kind of like it was just a little upsetting to me. But like, if that's Ukrainians and that's the orange hats, like they're definitely the ones that stoked the fire of the insurrection, and it wasn't Trump. And that's what we're.
And this could be why they're putting some people in jail and they're taking phones, and they're trying to get everybody's phones because they're going to get the pictures, especially chats, and they're trying to pull them off. You know, to pull them off the market, pull them off the internet. I know what I saw. And somebody filmed it, right? And so that's what's looming. That's why this thing's taken 3 years, more than 3 years now. They're trying to prove the evidence of these guys, right? You're seeing slices that confirm parts of what I say in the live. The 2 movies that are out, Gate 1, Gate 2, Gate 3, all that in the live call is confirmed in the movies, right? There's 3 later, the true timeline of J6 has been confirmed. But this other piece, with all of them smoking the cigarette together, throwing the cigarette butt out together, and all putting their orange hats on at once, if I get that, ooh. So there you go.
And here you go. You got the Secret Service took the cell phones of 24 agents involved in the January 6th response and gave them to investigators. And I wonder if these 24 agents were the ones involved in this, in the BlackBerry cover-up.
They were all lost. All this one of the questions that Thomas Massey asked, and all of these were lost, and the data was corrupted, and they went to a system after this. And we got the troll in here defending him. Doesn't that sound like a destruction of MCU? So there you go.
Yeah, and the OK sign is not a mega sign, you troll. It's a white supremacy symbol. It's the OK symbol, and I definitely showed a picture of the Azov battalion. Use it if you don't need some visual proof that they use this symbol. But kind of moving on a little bit. I couldn't really find. Is there any link between Trump's lawyer Kasowitz and Tucker Carlson at all? Like, is that why Tucker was kind of covering up some of these Ukrainian stories?
Well, that's more Alina Hobb. I don't think there's a connection. He's connected to, obviously, Kolomoisky, a Ukrainian mobster that runs the Azov. So, maybe Trump shouldn't have him as a lawyer, and probably shouldn't have Helena Haba from the same firm as a lawyer. That's probably not such a great idea. So, but if you, if you look at it, we're the only people out there that do any research in this. There are other people out there in 12 parties, Andy, about stories I did 7 years ago when I helped them and got them on their feet and volunteered a whole bunch of my time to get their channel up. 12 things. And they're made every piece of information I gave them, right? This is why I've gone out to the Substack, and I'm writing the Substacks, because all the books got pulled. They took all my Amazon books. I'm putting it back out there. There you go, lawyer. There you go.
Yeah. Kasowitz donated $90,000 to Joe Biden and $50 to Trump. Also, so it's like, what is this? This guy just seems to be like a little inside job waiting to happen, and Trump, it took him a little too long to realize.
Kolomoisky's his lawyer. Kolomoisky's his lawyer. So, yeah. So it's people are making money still. I did 7 years ago, and they're making money botching the stories. Completely botching the stories. And so people say, well, why are you going back and rewriting the books that you wrote in 2018? Because I want to get the true story out there, right? I wrote a story this morning. It's like, P-Tech had all the top secret clearances across P-Tech was the company that went through the building 1 and building 2 of the World Trade Center before the 9/11 attacks. And they were harvesting all of the high roller brokerage information, all the different brokerage firms, right? They also had top secret clearance across the top of all the agencies, Army, Navy, Air Force, FBI, CIA, etc., P-Tech. And task force, and we actually met. She took me to the PTEC branch, which was the Pakistani unit, intelligence unit, out in Langley, out by CIA, and showed me this is the place they can BlackBerries. And this had come from the war. In '99, they wanted a device that could double as a phone to send text messages and a radio, right? And so it made perfect sense that there was a Pakistani unit. And were those units, she felt very strongly that PTEC provided the phone for the 9/11 hijackers, because you needed a year and a half of training, and a year and a half of 20 people, and a year and a half of getting the money and all this stuff that they needed to do. And there's a very good case that she still be right, that the PTEC BlackBerries were the things that Jack Lew used to do 9/11. And that, I mean, Imran Awan, 16 of the 19 hijackers were in that area between Boynton Beach, is where Wexler, who he worked for, he worked right in the middle of where all the hijackers were, right? So it makes sense that there would be a go-between. Maybe he was just a delivery boy at that time when he got there in '99, but Imran Awan did get there in '99. I was the one who put the Washington Post, because they kept saying I was making up stuff about, oh, you didn't get here till 2008. Oh, you didn't get here till 2004. And then they looked at his records and found him here in 1999, and he was son of a guy who ran the Pakistani ordnance factory, who was the #1 war profiteer, not only for the war that was about ready to happen, but also go back to the Charlie Wilson, where Osama bin Laden's friend. He was also one of the biggest profiteers then, Imran's father. So isn't it interesting? It's the guy that gets planted in with the hijackers in Boynton Beach with Wexler, right? Who has the most to gain if there's a war in Afghanistan? Imran Awan's father. He's a member of the Pakistani ordnance factory. Would he send his son in with the technology that he was using in the fight against Osama bin Laden and his BlackBerry technology there? Would he send his son in amongst the hijackers to make sure they got doled out encryption so they keep their training secret? None of the FBI and CIA, and they were blind to all this as far as the regular rank and file FBI. How did they get that level of encryption? These are guys that used to go to strip clubs. They were flying planes where you have to file flight plans when you go to the airport. People see you when you fly planes. There's tail numbers on all these things. A lot of them had incidents and so forth that should have been reported, needed some kind of encryption technology. So that Imran Awan is like suspect #1, going all the way back to the BlackBerries then. And then they used the BlackBerries. This is my point in my piece this morning. And again, it's just an extension of Awan Minutes to Midnight, which is just part 1 that I put out. But you're going to see the connections. I put all the receipts out because these folks have screwed this story up so badly with these 12 episodes. They never got around to the PTEC BlackBerries. You never got around to 9/11. Yeah. How could you leave that out? You know, it's just like you never got around to Pakistani ordnance factory. You know, this is. I don't dislike Tucker. I don't dislike those. Okay, but you got journalism. You got to do where, how, right? Otherwise, you shouldn't be casting, and you should certainly not be accepting money from anyone. So there you go.
And is your book still available on Amazon?
No. Do you see where it says Senate Sergeant of Arms? The burglaries were from the Senate Sergeant of Arms. The thing you just put up there was from the Senate Sergeant of Arms.
Here, I'll put it back and read that.
Right.
And this is on his Wikipedia page. The alleged equipment theft. In March 2016, House auditors noticed some purchases for computer equipment were broken into multiple parts below $500 and left off the House inventory. Some of this equipment was delivered to the Awan brothers' house. On February 2nd, 2017, the Sergeant at Arms briefed top staffers for members of Congress that the U.S. Capitol Police were conducting an active criminal investigation into the actions of the 5 House IT employees, 4 men and a woman, who were being investigated. Allegations of procurement scam and the violating the House IT network rules. Subsequently, it was also revealed to the general public that there was an ongoing investigation. These 5 employees were barred from the computer networks at the House of Representatives. Later, Awan, his wife Hina Alvi, whose his 2 brothers and his friends were named as the 5 IT staffers being investigated. Given the suspected violations, most of the Congress members terminated Awan's services. Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz from Florida, however, continued to employ Awan in an advisory role. On March 5th, 2017, the FBI and Capitol Police stopped Awan's wife, Hina Alvi, at Washington Dulles Airport. They allowed her and her 3 children to get on the flight to Lahore. A government investigation led by U.S. Attorney Jesse K. Lew included forensic analysis of computer equipment and data, as well as interviews with about 40 witnesses. The investigation addressed various right-wing conspiracy theories about Awan. They want to throw George Webb's name in there.
No. Here's what Andy, here's what they want you to believe. Here's what they want you to believe. That there was 20 simultaneous burglaries, 20 different burglaries, all happened at the same night, the night of that Trump won, right? 20 simultaneous burglaries happened, right, in 20 different congressional offices, okay? And we know that there's 6 people, and one of them's a Ukrainian, right? Natalia Sova in this thing. So it's a cover-up from day one, right? They're trying to cover up the fact that everyone was carrying a separate phone, which had top secret communications capabilities to people in the State Department. Those people were the insiders that could give tips to constituents about when we're going to attack Khomeini, or when we're going to attack Libya, or when we're going to do this, when we're going to do that, things that would make the stock market go up and down. We said it was Mark Epstein. We said it was the Humpty Dumpty Society. Imran was a part of the Humpty Dumpty Society, along with his congressman, who was a DHS congressman. It goes back a ways, but he obviously had state sponsorship. So the fact that they took the 6 original people and then they sized it down to 2 in the courtroom, and then they dropped her case, and then it was only his case. All was to keep it off the government radar, keep it out of the public, get the DNC crimes, like the pipe bomb crime, right, like Anthrax 9/11 on the Capitol Hill, get that out of the public view, right? And so they brought Luke in to basically say, well, it's a filing error, right? They were going to bring Luke, as a matter of fact, they brought him in to say it says right here in this article that some of the Blackberries were moved his house, right? And I found the guy by knocking on doors, by me doing the work, not the jamokes who want to try to second guess me with 12 episodes, right? And they can't even get this right. They never mentioned that Imran's indicted. The indictment happened because we found the phones. They never mentioned that. The indictment happens because the BlackBerry tries to tell me that the Bidens were only doing energy deals. Those are the 2 key things that caused the indictment. And then they try to shuffle off the indictment, right? They bring in Luke Rosiak so that they can bring in their person with Tucker Carlson. Buster Freeze ran the Collar Foundation. So they get this out of citizen journalism. Get this away from citizen journalism. Let's move this up to one of our guys who can control the message. And that's what happened. And Tucker is Voice of America. So, there's people on the left of the roll and there's people on the right. And we have to punch through that. To stop the trolls like this, to stop the people who are trying to undermine me 7 years later. These are millionaires, right? Jets. They wouldn't be doing that if we hadn't caught them red-handed doing the DNC crimes with the Ukrainians as their number one hand. And they send them money, and they kept sending them billions, and so that they could go do shit all over the world, right? Everything you can imagine, cyber hacks, the starting pandemics, wars, mining, you name it, they did it, and they did it on that server. And that's why the server is so important. So there you go. I can't hear you, Andrew.
Sorry, that kind of perfectly leads me into my next story. It's something that you've spoken out before, but I don't believe we've actually. I know you've spoken about it, but we haven't 100% covered it and broken it down. And it's the BlackBerry and the Phantom secure network out that was run through Canada. And it involves me doing a little reading if you don't mind, George.
Go ahead. I know a lot about this case, so go ahead.
Okay, so this is the International Criminal Communication Service dismantled. Phantom Secure helped drug traffickers and organized crime worldwide. So here's a nice little graphic. I'll make big for the screen, just letting you know that there's a little map of the world and Phantom Secure is being run everywhere. So international organized crime and drug trafficking groups were dealt a blow by the takedown of an encrypted communication service they used to plan and commit their crimes. The FBI and its international partners announced yesterday. Canada-based Phantom Secure was a criminal enterprise that provided secure communications to high-level drug traffickers and other criminal organization leaders. The group purchased smartphones, removed all the typical functionality, calling, texting, internet, and GPS, and installed an encrypted email system so the phones could only communicate with each other. If a customer was arrested, Phantom Secure destroyed the data on that phone, which is obstruction of justice under U.S. law. In an attempt to thwart law enforcement efforts, the company required new customers to have a reference from an existing user. And these smartphones they were using were definitely Blackberries, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I got some more graphics showcasing that. Given the limited functionality of the phones and the fact that they only operate within a closed network of criminals, all the Phantom Secure customers are believed to be involved in serious criminal activity. Most of Phantom Secure's 10,000 to 20,000 users are the top level leaders of nefarious transnational criminal organizations in the US and several other countries, and the products were marketed as impervious to decryption or wiretapping. Working with our international partners in Australia and Canada, we learned that these phones have been used to coordinate drug trafficking, murders, assaults, money laundering, and all sorts of other crimes, said Special Agent Nicholas Cheviron of the FBI's San Diego division, who investigated the case along with U.S. and international counterparts. By shutting down Phantom Secure, criminals worldwide no longer have that platform to conduct their dangerous criminal activities. So I have some more articles here involving the Phantom Secure, but the FBI definitely was running some services through Phantom Secure as well. Like they were involved and using Phantom Secure to take down the criminals.
So I tell the whole story, Dmitry Alperovich, how he came to Associates in my latest Substack. You'll see how we had bought PGP. We bought his company in Moscow. He had connections with Bill Larson and Dennis Klein. They were funded by the intelligence agency. They were later used in Kosovo. These same Blackberries, I believe Task Forces was correct. They were used in 9/11. Through PTEC. I do think PTEC was the people who trained Imran when he was first getting, when he was kind of a nobody messenger when he first got to Florida. But this same code base with the back door that Dmitry wrote was used at Phantom Secure, the same code base. And Phil Zimmerman from PGP came over to Network Associates. He left for the same reason I did, because he said, look, this is no longer allowing the end user customer to protect their privacy. This has become a spying operation. That's why Phil left, and that's why I left, right? Mm-hmm. And I put all the receipts out there, right? Now we have a lot of people who seem to want to undermine this in every possible way possible because they're working for this network. Right? If you're for this network, you don't want somebody out there saying all these things and exposing this network, because this is how the crime is done in Washington, D.C. This is how the DNC does the crime. Okay. Right. And that's the key here. And We had David Hawkins making up every kind of story about how I had given these guys the phones and how I had done 9/11 with my brother, and they made the 12 different videos about that. Then they took them all down after he died, right? Yeah, they don't want anybody to know, and his brother hacked into the Federal Bridge to cause 9/11, literally. So you see, no one make up such an outlandish story unless they had something to cover, unless it was way worse than whatever they're doing now: murder, drugs, trafficking, human trafficking, all these things. And then the network. Look at the pipe bomber. You can see him on the phone by the RNC. You can see him on the phone by the DNC. What happened to the phone records? I actually interviewed a guy who carried a Phantom Secure. He was a pilot. He said he got involved in drugs, and they made him a pilot to pay off his drug bill. Mm-hmm. He said he had a BlackBerry and he hit 555. I saw the video. We did an interview of him at one of the charrettes. He hit 5555 4 times, erased the phone. So I've done my research on this backwards and forwards. Nobody can challenge me on this research here. And the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Hawkins, and all that. He said this was tied up with a piggy palace, for child trafficking in a piggy palace. And he said that there was on 9/11 an international betting ring where Bill Clinton was in New Zealand. They were on when children would die during live snuff films being. That's the people that are making films about me right now, saying, this isn't true and that isn't true and all these other things. Those are the people who are trying to undermine me. They're the ones. Look at David Hawkins and his story about Bill Clinton doing an international betting ring on children being trafficked and die, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want the real story. They're putting that story out there to protect the real story, which is these are being used by the largest government organizations to run drugs and do all these various things. It's the people that are in power that are using these. And that's what the cover-up artist, that's who the cover-up artists are protecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it even says right here, FBI's encrypted phone platform infiltrated hundreds of criminal syndicates. Result is massive worldwide lockdown. And this is the FBI. It was their phones they were using in Phantom Secure kind of to set it up.
When we bought PGP, I had customers of PGP contact me who wanted to have right to their own privacy, and they were very concerned PGP being bought by Bill Larson, right? And PGP Larson gave a speech and said the only people who do this thing are privacy freaks and drug dealers, mm-hmm. right? The FBI approached him and the CIA approached him right from the very beginning that they were going to go out to this network of phones, and this is how they're going to break into the networks, which is fine by me. What I saw them doing is doing a dragnet of all of our customers' information. Every company they bought, they wanted to bring it back to a single sign-on, and then that single sign-on was going to the FBI, it was going to go to the CIA, right? It was going to be a massive spy operation. And if you talk to John McAfee, who I knew, right? John McAfee said the same thing. John McAfee said the guys who took over the company from me and forced me out turned it into a spying operation and used the virus to actually. We hired Dmitry Alperovich, wrote viruses, right? And he would write viruses that would blow up in the next quarter so we could get sales in the next quarter. That's when I quit. That's incredibly unethical. So here we go.
Yeah. So these phones were essentially like the messages they send out, like Mission Impossible. It's like you choose to accept, and this thing will blow up. And delete 555. You 555 it, and it blows it right up, and there's no trace of anything that happens. So that was actually my last story I had on the docket today, okay. George Webb. I kind of, the big story was Tucker Carlson and Putin for the past couple of days, and it was kind of a little disappointing. But do you think Tucker's going to get sanctioned for the interview at least? I'll ask you.
Oh, they'll make a drama queen out of this. They always make a drama out of their little things. They for revealing Alfred the Great carried a gold scepter. Come on. They did. That was a nothing burger interview. They didn't even mention the Southern Route, not one time. They never mentioned the oil and gas in the Donbass, never mentioned the mineral wealth in the Donbass, never mentioned the oil and gas in the Crimea. It's like it's nothing. So why would you get sanctioned for that? The only reason he was sanctioned is they want to build up his persona as some kind of crime fighter or whatever, just like they did with Alex Jones. He was on there for 2 hours for Elon Musk. You know, oh, it's so great to have you back. We're going to make kiss and make up because of Sandy Hook. We already threw that story on George Webb on January 4th. He took the rap for you for Sandy Hook. He was the guy saying Adam Lanza had help. We already hit him with your shit. Right, Alex. So let's bring you back now because somebody's already paid the price for your sins, Alex. So let's bring him back. And so they bring him back for 2 hours. Elon, you still owe me 2 hours. And then and now Tucker Carlson's being made into a hero. For what? For having a father that's the head of Voice of America? For this nothing burger interview? We can do better. We can do better. Let's just leave it at that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I was just going to pop that on the screen right there. Give George Webb a follow. He's releasing some of his old books on his Substack, and you definitely you got to pay a pretty penny for them, and not many pennies, but a pretty penny.
So I'm gonna start charging for the. I'm going to do a couple of parts 3 and the new model, and then I'm going to do the other chapters like part 3 through 10. Will be paid, but at least everybody, these jamokes that are messing up stories I gave them 7 years ago with 4 episodes, right? I got to do something. I owe it to the American people because they're mangling the story so badly, and you would think you'd had 7 years and all of our researchers to help you, and they're still mangling it. So I'm doing this for the American people because they deserve to know that how the encryption protects these hijackers, right? It's the same thing that they do. They're running a pandemic. You have encryption, and the encryption is where to go to find out what the operations are. And they're the first things they would destroy after the operation's over with, right? You saw the pipe bomber, he's on the phone in front of the RNC, on the phone in front of the DNC, but it's all gone. It's all gone now, right? Where'd it go? You know it's an inside job when that happens. Otherwise, if it was a real J6er that did it, his picture would be on every news show, right? And they would hang from the testicles, and he would be the proof of the DNC that these people are dangerous and all their other bullshit stories that they tell.
Mm-hmm. And here's a little article. The right connections, a simple BlackBerry allowed contact when phones failed. And this is during the September 11th hijack on back in 2001. So the BlackBerry's messaging system kept rolling on even though everything else was failing. And we just exposed the entire, not we just, but this Operation Trojan Horse, we were talking about it, exposing the entire BlackBerry network around the world used by criminals. And what were the hijackers? Criminals. what are these J6 insurrectionist criminals? It's like they're all linked to having some type of BlackBerries and encrypted communication. You're muted, George Webb.
Somebody asked me how much the book was in yuan, Chinese yuan, and it's one yuan gets you a yuan.
you're
That's
billion.
A penny, like a penny.
I can actually send you some of our. I don't have all of them on this computer, but I got some of them of the old books you made when Neighborhood News Studio was rolling. You might be able to do a thing where you slow release some of the chapters of your old books as well, breaking down what you did, because all the work you were doing back then was pretty much stolen by mainstream media and some of these other news.
And I'm updating
outlets. Yeah.
I'm updating everything. So it's not just the old books. I'm updating everything, and I'm adding new material that we've discovered since. So this is it's like a book, but I just want everybody to know that we've got this great grounding. At one time, we had more citations than 7 Gutenberg Bibles. The citations alone, not the articles, the citations alone, the URLs added up to more than 7 Gutenberg Bibles. And that was like 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Nothing had more research than this. Nothing. It was more research than those early days. So somebody has to be the honest person to tell American people the truth, because otherwise it's going to keep happening. I hate to say it. It's true. So
Yeah,
but that Wednesday, right?
Yep.
Wednesday.
We will be back next Wednesday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern, breaking down hopefully there's a little more news build up in the next couple days, other than a boring Tucker Carlson interview. But we will be back Wednesday at 12 noon. Make sure you go to George Webb's Substack and give him some cash flow, and also go to his Twitter page at RealGeorgeWebb1 and throw some money in his pocket as well. You can do that by clicking the links in his description. Buy me a coffee, PayPal, Venmo, and there's that good old Substack link. The Substack, I would say, is one of the most important ones, because there's a lot of information being tackled within the Substack. So make sure you go subscribe to that. All right, George Webb, have a wonderful weekend. You got any shows this weekend?
I haven't planned on it yet. I might do a Twitter summary, kind of this show and with the Wednesday show, and then the two shows before, like a 4-way summary. I haven't decided yet, but I'm really working a lot more on the Substacks right now, because, like I'm saying, that these guys are mangling these stories, the American church, right? They're just, like monkeys pulling out things. So we've got to help, get this right, because this is the basis of covert operations last 20 years in government, full stop. So so that's what I'll probably be running this weekend. Yeah.
And George's Substack got hacked, and right when we were doing our Victor Sora article, and
joking.
We did that.
Zora, yeah.
Victor Zora, the Mask of Zora, the Ukrainian cybersecurity hacker. We did a little Mask of Zora show for me, and just right when we do the show, I get a little notification on Twitter. Victor Zora follows you, and it says it right there. He follows you. So we got the Hey, Victor, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed
the American money. I hope you're enjoying the billions we're sending to you on a daily basis.
Tell Igor we said hello.
I saw your girlfriends. In Hungary over there on that big lake. Yeah. I saw you guys partying with all of our money. You're enjoying it.
Yeah, he does a lot of work with the black hat hackers, so expect some more hacking of your Substack here, George Webb. And I was wondering, and maybe that's why your internet connection, they were kind of throttling you a little bit here during the show. Maybe Victor Sora was like, "Hey, AT&T, throttle Mr. Webb right now."
Well, it's probably a ping pinging the server, but have a denial service attack. But hey, there you go, Eddie. We'll keep swinging. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what did we go over during the show? That blackberries matter. Follow the servers, follow the criminals.
Started seeing like blackberries, government issued blackberries. Government issued blackberries. Government issued blackberries. They were blackberries. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment.